All right, guys, got a movie we're going to talk about and a little bit of life today. We're going to talk with Stacey Toy about the movie 100 Acres of Hell. And first off, Stacey, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, no problem. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, first off, let's talk about the movie and tell your involvement in the movie, kind of the whole story behind it, and how have you been blown away by the reception, if you will?
Yes, it absolutely was, because 5 years ago, I was in a transition in my life. I had just gotten out of live TV news broadcasting. I was directing America's highest rated local newscasts in the country, going and doing like the London 2012 Olympics, things like of that nature. And I was chosen by one of the corporate, in fact, the engineer who invented the automation program for control rooms in the United States, and help basically troubleshoot and perfect the automation systems across the United States. So I knew that I had just perfected my replacement, because control rooms were going from like 12 people down to 2, and now even 1. So 5 years ago, I made this transition. So I didn't, I was in a phase, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I got hired on this film to do PR, actually. And I just have a natural curiosity, and I ask a lot of questions. And my questions actually led to, some things being found out behind the scenes of other people doing some shady things. And so they were let go. And a week on my very first film set, they asked me to be the production manager, which is basically in charge of everything behind the scenes. And I'm like, you guys know this isn't like, this is my first week on set. And they're like, I know, but, we're going to help guide you, and we think that you could do this. And so I took the opportunity, because I figured, if I suck at it, then this isn't for me, but at least I can give it a shot. And I had really good professionals on my side, like Ernie O'Donnell from Clerks. So, he'd been in the industry for over 25 years, WWE superstar Gene Snitsky. Obviously, everybody in there was just so wonderful. So, 5 years later, it's out now. It came out last October. It's on like Amazon Prime, Vudu, iTunes, Google Play, On Demand. It's like on 32 platforms right now. And it's gotten such a huge buzz last year, but even more of a buzz this year, because it's getting ready for Halloween. And it also stars like the Exorcist star Eileen Dietz, where she was like Linda Blair's replacement for the pea soup scenes and all those kinds of things. So like we have some throwbacks to slashers. We have like Samu Anawahi and Alpha Anawahi Jr., who are, they're the head shrinkers and sold out Madison Square Garden for WWE. And there's some epic scenes in there for wrestling fans. But it's, basically about finding the fight in yourself as well as being a horror film. So I kind of just took the opportunity and, I ran with it. So I'm really happy with the outcome.
And you talked about finding the fight inside of yourself. And this brings true on a personal level for you as well.
Of course. Absolutely. So I grew up on a farm in the country, small town, rural, we didn't have much, but we didn't want for anything. And so my father instilled in me a lot of different morals. He planted the seeds, if you will. And so I knew, like they had said, that they couldn't afford me all of these opportunities. So I had to figure out different ways how to be able to travel and see the world and do different things. So that was to me through education and through different programs. And so going away to college, I got into Elizabethtown College. And during that whole time of being in high school and going into college, nobody really knew this, but, I had ovarian cysts really bad. So I was given opioids like Vicodin and Percocet and Loracet and all those. And so by the time I was at Oxford University, the #1 school in the world, I was taking between 70 and 100 Vicodin a day and still making like the dean's list. So at the end of this month, I'll be clean from that for 17 years, like that, and cocaine and all the hard drugs, which I'm excited about. But 9 years ago, my husband, we had 2 kids. I got married. My husband was in the Navy. And when he came home from serving, he suffered with PTSD and depression. And on Veterans Day in 2011, he actually passed away from an accidental heroin overdose. So I got to see, I guess, both sides of the coin, if you will. And it kind of was like a jarring life lesson to learn that you have to want to save yourself too. Like you can't save everybody. But I still wanted to make something good come from something bad. So I found the person who shot my husband up because he had never been like a heroin addict before. So he had somebody else do it. And so I reached out to him and I actually met up with him. And at that point, he was shooting about 50 plus bags a day of heroin himself. And he had just gotten out of prison for something else. And so I said, listen, I'll help you to get sober. And I said, if you can become the husband to your wife and the father to your two sons that my husband can no longer be, I'll help you because I've been here. Like nobody, I was on top of the world back at Oxford. And the thing is it was the pre-opioid epidemic. So when I went and asked for help, it was like they didn't know what to do with me because I wasn't, it wasn't heroin and it wasn't underage drinking. It was, I had legit prescriptions for every single, even though I was taking that much of it, I had all of these doctors. I mean, again, pre-opioid epidemic, I'm at the best school in the world making, really great grades. So like, what? Yeah, just keep giving her whatever she needs. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then when I asked for help, everything kind of got pulled out from underneath me because now I'm a druggie and I'm going to be a failure and, and dealing with depression and withdrawal and going through all of that. So I walked in, meeting with this guy who essentially killed my husband. It was okay if he was going to tell me to go, to hell if I wanted to, or whatever. I at least wanted to know that I tried. But at the end of the day, it's been 9 years now since my husband passed next month, and he'll be clean 9 years at the end of this year. The other guy, he got his family back. He has a very successful business right now. And right now he's the only one left alive. All of the rest of his friends have died from addiction. And so, over the last 17 years, I've not only been able to prove that the only thing more powerful than depression and addiction is love and forgiveness, but I was able to prove that it sustained itself because I didn't hold his hand. All he did was ask me for, guidance. And I mean, I would give him, like minutes on his cell phone so he could call his kids or call me, and give him a Bible, and pick him up and take him to work or take him to lunch or something like that. Like I never gave him money, but I just, helped him like spiritually and trying to like my father did for me, plant different seeds and help to see a different perspective because I think life's all about perception and reaction. And if you have a different perception, you're going to have a different reaction. So you've got to take the time to kind of see that. And so I was able to make something good come from something bad and honor my husband in a way of giving a life back to somebody else. And that to me was like the biggest full circle moment. And it continues to go on. And I'm super proud of him right now. But in 2 Corinthians, it says that God sometimes chooses people to suffer so they in turn can help others who suffer. And then together you share in that comfort, the way that God has comforted us. So, I'm a firm believer in that because then usually at the end of that sentence, if I'm in a good conversation, I'll be like, and if that's not true, then why am I here talking to you right now? You know what I mean? So, yes.
Now, for you, as it comes full circle and you're seeing a change in somebody else's life, I mean, has that made some of the pain even more bearable as you look back at it?
I mean, of course, I miss my husband dearly. And of course our children do too. I never remarried or anything like that, but our kids are now, 16 and 14 and we've been the three amigos like the entire time. So, they know the whole story. I've been very honest with them, especially in today's world with everything is so accessible drug wise, and it's at a younger age and everyone has cell phones and it's insane the amount of stuff. So I make it very open and honest, with my children because I want them to learn from both my side and their father's side and to know that you can't mess with it. And so I've overheard my kids, telling other people about, I lost my dad this way and my mom used to be like this too, but now, she came back and she was able to do this and now she's on the Grammys red carpet and, and it's really inspiring for me to know that I was able, because people at one point were just pointing at me saying I'm a failure. I'm a drug addict. I'm not going to be anything anymore. And everything I worked so hard for was just gone and ripped away. And I hit rock bottom and I hit it hard, but I needed that to happen in my life because I wouldn't have learned or have gotten woken up otherwise, if that makes sense. Like, I needed the crap kicked out of me. I really did. And I'm thankful for it. And if I had to go back and live it, I'd do it the exact same way, because it made me who I am right now. And I'm really proud of, the person that I did become, because I could do it now, without drugs.
So you were talking about being able to share the stories with your kids. I mean, do you think that that could have made a difference? I mean, my generation, my parents, and probably your parents as well, drugs wasn't something you really talked about. And do you think that maybe the talking about it takes the stigma off of it a little bit?
Honestly, it does, because it wasn't until I did have a problem and I went to my father that I found out, because my father has gotten hurt at work and he has degenerative disc disease. So he has 5 bad discs in his back and he broke a shoulder in his arm. And so he was hurting it. And so he was one of the first people in the 90s on OxyContin. So he knew the withdrawal of coming off of something just as bad. And so it was him. And I mean, honestly, it was really only him. The whole world literally turned their back on me at one point in time. But my father stayed with me because he knew that it was possible to get over with. And then in him sharing in his, openness, which I didn't know prior to that inspired me and showed me that I was going to be able to do it too, because he told me the same blood that runs through my veins runs through yours. And I'm just like, again, it's about the way you think and the way you see things. And, sometimes it's like that, fake it till you make it. So you just got to, if you got nothing to hold on to, you just got to make something, you know what I mean? And if it's just like a metaphor like that, or, the one thing is always the tiny acorn was, turned into the mighty oak because it stood its ground, stupid stuff like that. But I literally have an acorn at my desk at every place that I have a desk at, just to remind me of the small things and how important, those little things are and stuff. And so it's about planting seeds and having a different perspective.
And again, don't want to miss out and let our listeners know where they can find more information about the movie, and also follow you social media and website as well.
Sure, absolutely. On 100 Acres of Hell, you can go 100 Acres of Hell movie. It's on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that stuff. Our production company that I run with my business partner, Mark Denenbaum Jr., is 258 Studios, and that is the number 258studios.com, or all spelled out 258 Studios on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find me personally at Stacey, STACEYTOY, on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And don't forget the E, or else it goes to my other cousin, and I probably won't see it for about 6 or 8 months.
There you go. Well, Stacey, it has been great to get to know you and to learn more about the film. Hopefully we can catch up again. I'd love to have you back on again real soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Our next guest is going to be the Reverend Al Sharpton. We'll be visiting about his new book, Rise Up. First off, Reverend Sharpton, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Reverend, first off, man alive, you've gone through the civil rights movement and seen obviously some progressions, but aren't we seeing it kind of fall back a little bit right now?
I think we are seeing a fallback. That is why I named the book Rise Up, Confronting a Country at the Crossroads. I think when we saw from my childhood, when Martin Luther King and others were out there, and I joined the movement in the North because I was raised in New York, born and raised there. And the fight for equal rights for Blacks, the fight for women, the fight for LGBTQ, the fight for those that were of Latino descent, all of that making progress all the way to the Obama administration. And then under the Trump administration, the last 3 years, we've seen a lot of that go into regression. Police reform suspended basically the consent decrees in many cities that had shown a pattern of police abuse, removing the Justice Department suing on voting rights impediments, the fight to revoke the Affordable Care Act, the backing up of standing up for LGBTQ rights, outright gender inequality efforts, and now the possibility of having a Supreme Court that may take down certain aspects of Roe versus Wade. So we're at a crossroads. We are, in our lifetime, could not see it more graphic than the administration that went out and the road it was going, even though I don't think it all the way got us there, but it was headed that way, and the road of this administration. And I challenge people to rise up and choose bringing this country up toward the road that we were on, and to protect those gains that we've made and keep going down that road to have more gains. And I try to show in the book how everybody can play a part. Everyone can't lead marches like I do or be in media, but everybody can do something, and I give all kinds of ways that can be done.
And Reverend, that's kind of what I wanted to ask you about. How do we get involved to make a difference beyond political lines, no matter which side you stand on? I mean, we can all make a difference, can't we?
All of us can make a difference. One, you can start by registering and voting and making sure you are not one that is purged. Then you can start with just the people in your household. You don't have to call a rally in the neighborhood. Start the people in your household. Are they registered to vote? Do you talk to them about the issues? Is that something you go over during breakfast or dinner? Then the people on your block. And then little by little, you can influence people at your workplace, people in your church, people in your bingo lodge. People can just touch people. We can talk to people in our circle. We tweet them. We text them on the latest show on television or the latest movie that we saw in the pandemic sitting up at home. Why can't we talk to them about what affects our lives? So everybody can do something. And I tried to demonstrate how and the significance of doing it now. We've never been at this point in history, and we need to all weigh in.
That's right. And Reverend, how amazed and blessed do you feel to be able to maybe lead a charge for a rise and see the differences and the changes that you've been able to be a part of over the span of your life so far?
I think if I understand your question, you're saying how I've been able to stay in the movement.
Yes, sir.
I think because, Mark Twain said something that really impacted me. He said that the two most important moments in life is the moment you're born and the moment you find out why you were born. When I was a young kid, I started preaching in the Pentecostal church, the Church of God in Christ. By the time I was 12, I became intrigued with watching the civil rights movement on television there in Brooklyn. My mother was born and raised in the South, and she was concerned I was going to leave the church. I was a boy preacher, had gotten known as that, and she was afraid I would leave the church. She brought me to our bishop, and our bishop brought me to Reverend William Jones and Reverend Jesse Jackson, who were about twice my age or more at that time, and said, this young man's a boy preaching. They said, yeah, we've heard him. We've heard him on the radio. He says, we don't want to leave the church, but he wants to be involved. And they said, oh, no, we are church-based. And they mentored me. And when I started the picket lines with my youth department, they made me youth director of the chapter of the organization in New York. It was like putting a password in your computer. Everything lit up, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. I did not want a ministry or passion of big cathedral. I wanted to be out there helping people, organizing people. And I think that is why I've stayed in it all my life. That is me. It's not a career choice. There's no way I would have known at 13 years old that it would lead to me having access to the first Black president. We didn't even imagine there would be a Black president when I was 13. That I would have a television show on MSNBC. There was no MSNBC when I was 13. It was not a career move. It was answering the call on your life. And guess what? Everybody listening to us has one on their life. And if you find it, you will find inner peace, even amidst turmoil. Doesn't mean you won't have trouble. It just means you'll get through the trouble.
That's right. Now, Al, if folks want to find out more information about the book and all of the works that you're doing, where can they find that information, sir?
They can go to www.alsharptonbooks.com, and they can find out all about the book, and they can get the books anywhere books are sold, or they can go to nationalactionnetwork.net. That's my civil rights organization, and be up to date daily on what we're doing, where we're doing it. And if they want to, they can be part of it.
All right. Well, Reverend Al Sharpton, great to visit with you this morning. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and looking forward to spending some more time with the book myself, sir.
All right. Thank you very much for helping us on.
Again, thanks for joining us for this episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, find me on Instagram, Twitter, and on my Facebook page at GQwithCam. Also, if you'd like to help out in the funding for this podcast, feel free to click on the support tab and follow the instructions. Also, if you have a special guest idea, send me an email, Cameron@kwhw.com. We'll be back with episode 27 coming up tomorrow.